Welcome to Conversations on the Coast, the Bay Area's premier author interview program. And today, for the same price, we bring you two authors or two collaborators. We're going to be celebrating, as everybody is around here, the diamond anniversary of the Golden Gate Bridge. As you will recall, it opened on May 27th, 1937 for people, and on May 28th, it was open for cars. And today we're going to talk about what I feel is a kind of permanent celebration of the bridge. It's a book, and a beautiful one at that. It's called The Golden Gate, San Francisco's Celebrated Bridge. It is edited by Peter Beren. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you.
And the photographs, the photography. Photography is by Morton, Beebe. And you all should know out there that I think of these gentlemen as friends, both of them. So welcome. Nice to have you aboard.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
And we should let people know a little bit about your background. Peter Beren is what I would call a publishing veteran. That's what I think he is. He's a renowned documentarian. Oh, that's Beebe. Peter Beren is a literary agent and publishing consultant. He's the author of 6 books, formerly the publisher of Sierra Club Books, Via Books, which is or was a division of AAA of Northern California, and vice president of publishing for the Palace Publishing Group, and he continues to make his home in the Bay Area. Now, Morton Beebe's been around a little longer. He is a world-renowned documentarian of San Francisco. His photographs have appeared in various magazines throughout his career, which has spanned more than 50 years. And he's only 62 now, so he started doing this a long time, when he was very young. And those photographs have appeared in National Geographic, Life, Smithsonian, Travel and Leisure, and naturally, he lives in San Francisco. So, one question that came to mind when I first picked this up, since I know both of you, is who had the idea first, Peter or Morton?
Well, actually, I was approached by Palace Press, which is now called Insight Editions.
Okay.
And they had seen my California book and my Napa book, and they wanted me to do a similar book on the Golden Gate. So I approached Morton. Morton and I had been talking about doing a book together for years.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the opportunity to bring us together.
Great. Mort, do you tell the same story, or can you want to contradict him?
I won't contradict him, but this was my 6th book.
6th?
Yeah.
Wow.
I did the book on San Francisco in 1985, which was published by Abrams, and that went through 5 printings and 3 editions. And I did one on Miami and the Keys, another one up in Seattle and Vancouver.
That's a marvelous book. I've seen that
you.
one, yeah. Now, one of the things about the Golden Gate Bridge, I feel this still. I'm a new guy around San Francisco. I came here in 1977. And when I came here, I didn't understand the great attraction, significance, the iconality, if you will, of the Golden Gate Bridge. And I've been here a lot of years, and I still don't think I really understand it. At the beginning of the book, Peter writes, "No one can say that the Golden Gate Bridge is a structure that mars the natural beauty that surrounds it. Rather, this triumph of design and engineering enhances the landscape it belongs to. And in this sense, it is like the materialization of a dream, a true marvel." And, that comes pretty close, I think, to why people are always and totally attracted and interested in it.
Well, I think there's a lot of meanings that have been overlaid on the bridge, and some of them are not readily apparent.
Mm-hmm.
Before the bridge was built, there was a great deal of lobbying for the bridge, and some of the editorials in the newspapers commented that putting a bridge over the Golden Gate being that part of the headlands that separates the Pacific from the bay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really the bridge over the Golden Gate.
True.
And that particular achievement would put San Francisco back on the world stage like it had been during the gold rush. Because in the 1920s, L.A. was making a move to be the premier city of California, and San Francisco was feeling overshadowed. So there are a lot of meanings overlaid on the Golden Gate: the closing of the frontier, the closing of the last gap, facing the Pacific, and America becoming a Pacific power as well as an Atlantic one.
You know, in enjoying the many photographs leaves me with some questions. Over how much time, how many years were they taken?
The heaviest concentration of photography began in 1982 through the present. And I've never quit photographing the bridge, whatever excuse, day or night.
You're still tied to it.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Yeah. And you've taken photographs in all kinds of conditions. Which would you say was the hardest or the toughest condition to shoot?
Well, trying to make my way through the fog, climbing up the towers of the Golden Gate Bridge. I've been up there 4 times.
Aha, climbing up the towers. Now, that's something I want to talk some more about. The Golden Gate, San Francisco's celebrated bridge, is more than photography at its finest. It also tells the story of the bridge. So we'll get into how you take those photographs and how you tell the story when we come back.
You're listening to Conversations on the Coast with Jim Foster. Now you can find this program on iTunes, SoundCloud, and all your favorite digital outlets. Follow the show on Twitter at JimFosterCoc and email jimfostercoc@gmail.com.
The Golden Gate, San Francisco Celestial Bridge. Celebrated Bridge. Edited by Peter Beren, photography by Morton Beebe, and the publisher is Earth Aware Editions and Imprint of Insight Editions. Mort, I want to go back to you crawling around that bridge because I want to make sure that you do that. Because when I saw the pictures, I said, it could have been out of a helicopter, some of them. But you did a lot of crawling around?
Indeed. And I did a lot of helicopter photography as well. One incident that you might enjoy is that for KQED auction, I got the Bridge Authority to allow me to bring a guest up, and they auctioned off that privilege. And a young kid paid about $3,000 or $4,000, I remember at the time, and brought his new Nikon with him. We met at the base and went up to the top of the bridge. When he got up there, he was so excited that he immediately ran around the pillars, areas that I had never had the nerve to do when I went up previously, looking down between my toes at the open grating.
Yeah.
However, when we got back down below, I wished him well, and he opened his camera up and realized he was in such a state of shock he forgot to put any film in the camera.
Oh, God.
So I turned around and gave him my film. This is pre-digital.
Yeah, pre-digital. So he got his pictures.
He got pictures. I don't know what he did with them. He's probably an active pro by now.
The bridge was opened in 1937, but the story starts back in 1923 with a preliminary design by Joseph B. Strauss, a Chicago engineer. And in 1930, the design had been tweaked and got to look a lot like the bridge we know today. And if there's a hero in all this, one of them's got to be Mr. Strauss. It's amazing. An amazing guy that he stuck with it the way he did, despite, of course, a lot of opposition. It's no different then than it is now in terms of building. What do you think made it possible for him to persuade people? Was he just a persuasive guy, or?
The first thing is he worked at it for 20 years. And he said that it took more than 250 million words to convince people the bridge was feasible. He said on the eve of the opening of the bridge, "The Golden Gate Bridge, the bridge which could not and should not be built, which the War Department would not permit, which the rocky foundation of the pier base would not support, which would have no traffic to justify it, which would ruin the beauty of the Golden Gate, which could not be completed within cost estimate, stands before you in all its majestic splendor in the complete frustration of every attack made upon it." So he was persevering, and he was a great showman. Some people say he was a better showman than engineer, and the designs actually accrue to his assistants.
But that's the case in all engineering firms. Come on, let's not beat down my patron saint.
No, he was an amazing man, and probably the tragedy of his life was that he died within a year of the bridge opening.
Yeah, that's right. The financing for it was to come from San Francisco and the 5 counties to the north, which was really quite a progressive way to think of it, because those 5 counties to the north at that time were rather bucolic, were they not? I mean, they weren't the living center like they are now.
Well, in point of fact, they wanted public financing, and A.P. Giannini stood up and said that he would underwrite all $35 million of the bonds, and that made it possible for the little people to come forward, and it was also people in San Francisco as well as Marin and the northern counties, and it became known in history as the People's Bridge because it was financed by the people.
Great, that's great. The after World War II, if we can jump ahead for the moment, the bridge becomes very popular and becomes very profitable, and so profitable that private profiteers enter the picture, and bills are put before the state legislature to disband the district, the Golden Gate Bridge District, every year from the 1940s to the 1960s. What happened?
Well, the district essentially reformed itself, and if you want to jump in more, and they funded the ferries and the buses to reduce traffic on the bridge and reduce congestion.
They're even doing that now with the WETA and the new ferry systems that'll run to Alameda and other locations all over the bay. The ferry system is a fantastic. And there's nothing so beautiful than coming under the Golden Gate Bridge on a cruise ship.
Said just like a photographer, doesn't it? Yeah, really. That's the way he talks all the time. Photographer this, photographer that. It goes on beautifully, and I think the widening out of the mission of the district fits in very well with the notion of this is the people's bridge. The more people it serves, the better off everybody is.
Well, the newspapers ran tallies on a daily basis as to how much progress the bridge had made being built.
Yeah.
And people were following it and considered it their bridge.
Mm. The interesting thing is that all of this took place during the Depression. All of this building, all of this striving, all of this trying to create this incredible structure. And the fact of the matter is that the Depression was good for the bridge, and the bridge was good for the Depression times, giving people work and so forth. And so it is all of these things, and maybe that's why it's very difficult to answer the question, what does the Golden Gate Bridge mean to me? When we come back, we're going to lighten up, and we're going to play a game of favorites. Don't miss it.
You're listening to Conversations on the Coast with Jim Foster. Now you can find this program on iTunes, SoundCloud, and all your favorite digital outlets. Follow the show on Twitter at JimFosterCoc and email JimFosterCoc@gmail.com.
The Golden Gate, San Francisco's celebrated bridge. That's the book we're talking about today. Editor of the book, Peter Beren, is with us, and the man who did all the photography, Morton Beebe. The publisher is Earth Aware Editions, and that's a subset of Insight Editions. One of the things that Peter was mentioning just as we were going away, or maybe it was even off air, is the material that went into the book. And here it is on page 67. 80,000 miles of wire. That's enough, kids, to encircle the Earth 3.5 times. 100,000 tons of steel. 100,000 tons of steel. 254,690 cubic yards of concrete. And 110,000 gallons of paint. And they're still ordering paint all the time, aren't they? So that's the stuff, the material part of it, that went into the bridge. Now, what Morton Beebe has done is take his, I would say, love for the bridge and try to express it through his camera art. And Peter Beren is going to lead off the favorites part. We'll try not to be too critical.
My favorite photo in the book is on page 112.
Okay.
And it's a mystical photo of the bridge going off into infinity under a full moon and twilight. And Evan S. Connell said, "Across the Golden Gate you behold a dream, there with the vitreous topaz lights of San Francisco, like the holy city of Byzantium." And of course, Byzantium refers to the Golden Gate, which is the horns of the Bosphorus Sea that Captain Fremont named the Golden Gate after.
All right, my favorite one, my first favorite, I have two more, is one of the frontispieces, 2-page spread.
They're always good.
Where the bridge emerges, or soon will emerge from the fog, and then you have suggestions of the lands touched by the bridge, the fog, the city off in the distance. To me, it's I don't know, it's very comforting and very thrilling, all at the same time. How high up were you when you took this one, Mort?
I was up on the headlands.
Okay.
But using a very, very long lens on a few of the images that follow from that same perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I was living in Sausalito and would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, in those summer period where the fog is low generally below the level of the bridge,
mm-hmm.
and you could see the city seemingly floating above it all. I know at the time that I shot that and then used it as a cover of a book I did in '85, the Convention Bureaus was upset because they were trying to say little and show little of the fog.
Yeah, too damn much fog for them, for their purposes.
When that book became a bestseller nationwide, they reversed themselves and then asked if they could license the image to promote the city, and have been showing fog ever since.
Okay. Okay, Mort, your turn. Which of the images is your favorite?
Well, certainly some of those that up there, such as on page 32, where you see the double-page spread,
mm-hmm.
and see the bridge with the identifying Transamerica building that designates the city. There are others, too, that page 54, where I'm up on the tower walking around on the grating that gives you the opportunity to look down between your toes at the traffic below.
And that was on my list of favorites, too. Mort is way up here on the grading part and looking down, looking up toward Marin, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the South Tower.
And one of the nice parts is it isn't foggy. Not in that picture.
Well, I've been trapped up there in the fog, but that really spoils the day.
That's one of the things that comes throughout this book is the devotion of Morton and the devotion of Peter to the bridge, to the whole concept, to the mystique of it, to what it means to the city culturally. So it's an invaluable celebration of the 75th, the Diamond Jubilee of the Golden Gate Bridge. Now, there's another theory in this book that I need to talk to you gentlemen about. It is said by some that the bridge sings. Does it, and what is it? You sitting there shaking your head, sure. What does that mean, it sings? Tell me.
It's harmonic resonance of the towers and the wire.
Mm-hmm.
The cables, basically.
And where do you have to be to pick up the music?
It's more likely what do the wind conditions have to be for you to hear the music.
So that depending on the wind, you could be any place on the bridge.
Any place near one of the towers.
Okay. Have you actually heard?
Or even the cables. I was out there last week, and where they lead tours out on the bridge, they make a point of coming up and touching the cables and structures, and you get a different harmonics.
Oh, wow. Well, if you get this book, you can't really touch the bridge, but almost. It's a beautiful book. It's wonderfully done. It's called The Golden Gate, San Francisco's Celebrated Bridge. Peter Beren, editor, photography, Morton Beebe. This has been Conversations on the Coast, and I'm Jim Foster.
Now you can find this program on iTunes, SoundCloud, and all your favorite digital outlets. Follow the show on Twitter at Jim Foster COC and email jimfostercoc@gmail.com.